You know that moment when you're lying in bed and you're reading the news on your phone. It's really late at night, but you're quite curious to see what's going on. And then you feel as though you get that urge just to turn your computer on and make a video. No, probably not. Well, that's what I've had just now. And it is stupid o'clock in the morning, so I'm rather tired. But it's not the point. I go on my phone, look on my web browser, type in to Google search Square-Enix, look on the news, find out that there's now a trailer for the Final Fantasy X HD remake, or reskin as they're doing, and watch it and think what an utter waste of time they've spent doing that. Just to come out on the PlayStation 3, just to make money, and an absolute utter waste of resources, quite frankly. It was not needed. No one really wants it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's nice, but seriously, what's the point? And then, I go through reading the other stuff, like they're bringing Dragon Quest MMO to Europe. Brilliant. They're making a new Thief game. Awesome. I really don't care. They pulled the plug on a Legend of Kane game, which they already started making. Awesome. It's disappointment after disappointment after disappointment with them, and I just don't see how they can keep plodding along at this rate. There's so much news about them supporting more mobile games, more MMOs, and that's just, it's not where their games have come from. It's not where your games have been. I don't know why I'm saying they. I'm talking to you, Square Enix. Whether you're listening to me or not, I'm still talking to you. And you've now decided that a Final Fantasy 13 versus, or whatever it's called, Final Fantasy versus 13 or versus, I don't know, stupid title anyway. You've now decided to make that Final Fantasy 15, right? And then I read some news about what the battle system's going to be like, and I'm sitting there and waiting for it to load, and the page doesn't load on my phone, and it's really annoying. And then, so I load up again on a different browser, not my phone's browser, not on Google Chrome, and it comes up and says that it's now going to be an action game. Effectively, you're pretty much trying to take all the RPG out of it. And I get a quote saying that they want to make an action game, but it still has to have a taste of Final Fantasy. Now, apart from the title, where is this taste of Final Fantasy? Where am I going to get any sort of taste from this game? At all. You're going to make the gameplay action-orientated? You're going to take away the key fundamentals of Final Fantasy, because I can't see there being summons there, for example. You're trying to make it more realistic, and oh dear. And you're talking about how you've made it so graphically enhanced that you're gonna have to scale it down for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. You're gonna have to scale it down to their level because you've made it that great, that brilliant, that technologically amazing. Yet at the same time, you're gonna rip it all apart with the gameplay. Do you understand? Does that not compute in the logical core of the Square Enix empire, which, by the way, is shrinking by the day? No, it doesn't, obviously. Everyone, when everyone saw the trailers for it, I don't know how many years ago it was now, but it's it's been longer than I've been waiting. No, it's not longer than I've been waiting for a successor to Final Fantasy X, an actual successor, not the rubbish that we've had. Everyone thought that was going to be the next sort of how Kingdom Hearts was going, that sort of action gameplay, which, don't get me wrong, I never actually got around to playing, but I know a lot of people liked it, and I can understand, it's fine, if they're going to do something like that. I mean, the two worlds are quite similarly linked, the characters make cameos in there, so fair enough, but you're now going to make a third Kingdom Hearts, and then now Final Fantasy 13 versus becomes 15. And yet we got all this spiel from before Fantasy 13 came out and before Versus came out that, one universe couldn't live without the other and they're somehow entwined. Really? And now it's a totally different game. So surely versus should be 13-4 if they're entwined, surely. And it's the mind boggles at Final Fantasy 13-3, but this boggles even more. There is no soul left in Final Fantasy now. There is none, because it's been. At the end of the day, Final Fantasy 13 can take Final Fantasy 11. It can take another failed MMO in Final Fantasy 14. They should not have been called. They should not have been given numbered titles. They should have been called Final Fantasy MMO or something like that. Or the final MMO, because that would be great, because then you wouldn't have made 14 and then messed it up. It can take that, because they're totally different. They're allowed to be out there, wrong and not work properly and, lose you lots of money. But, they've had 12, which, I don't know, I didn't like it. It was the beginning of the end. Well, 11 was the beginning of the end, but still. And then you've got 13. Absolute failure. No matter what level you look at it, right, okay, it might have sold fairly well. But you lost a lot of fans. You lost a lot of confidence. And you bring out 13-2. You do sort of address some of the problems. But it's not good enough. It's not far enough. The story was terrible. The added DLC for costumes, for weapons, for, content in the game. It's far too much. And then you've got 13-3, which really is, I would say it's the fun nail in the coffin, but that's already gone. And it's basically like you're taking the smallest steps to get to that action gameplay which you want to have for Final Fantasy 15, because you want to make the gaming series more mainstream. Well, let me tell you something. The gaming scene, which is mainstream, is not. There's so many splinter groups now. Unless you're going to go down the Call of Duty line or the Skyrim line and just blatantly rip them off, you've got nothing. Because even then it wouldn't work. You've got to have your own direction. Final Fantasy had its own direction. It had its own gameplay. Had its own unique stories. And it's some of the best experience you can get from playing a game. It was one of those series which had its identity. The Elder Scrolls had its identity. Well, I don't like Call of Duty. It has its identity. Final Fantasy does not have its identity. You've gone through everything you could go through. If it just stuck to the RPG element that you had up until 10, you would still have that. You haven't now. You've got 2 MMOs. One failed, one which I never played. I don't know if it was a success or not. And then you've had to bring out another MMO. So that's 3 MMOs, basically. And from what I've seen in the MMO, you've just nicked stuff from Guild Wars. So, brilliant. And then you pushing it down this Skyrim as far as you can, but yet you tried to put, we'll put a little bit of RPG in there. We'll put a bit more, mainstream RPG. Whereas Skyrim is amazing for what it does. And I've seen articles where you've admitted it publicly that you want the game to be more like Skyrim. And that's just not what Final Fantasy is. Leave the Skyrim gameplay to the Elder Scrolls. Final Fantasy have its own. And other people will have to find their niches. That's just how it goes. If you want to be the leader in that particular style of game, you have to stick to it. At the end of the day, Final Fantasy or Square-Enix, one of the amazing, godfathers of RPGs for, both companies used to do it. You've left a huge gap in the market now. There is a huge gap. And while there's people like me, and there's lots of people like me that want to do RPG Maker games, and you wonder why, and it's these reasons. And there's going to be a company at some point which is going to understand what's going on, going to see this gap, and they are going to fill that gap with something amazing. That's my hope. And Final Fantasy will have lost its share then. And what you're going to do is you're going to realise that's a success and think, why don't we just carry on? Well, let me tell you this, because you've spotted it far too late. I mean, I was thinking about it earlier. The Final Fantasy games we had between 1993 and 2003, you've got a huge, amazing plethora of games there. You look at 2003, 2013, an absolute failure on Square's part. Not Squaresoft. Squaresoft had gone by then. Square Enix's part. And that's the problem that I have. And unfortunately, if there's no change between 2013 and 2023, which I can't see there being because you've started off on the same foot the past 10 years, Square Enix is gonna go bankrupt. I mean, there's signs already. you've half-made games, you continue on with game series that weren't even successful in the first place, and you're destroying the ones that will actually make you money. And that's the problem. And without meaning to sound like I know that that I know what I'm going on about, that I'm better than I am, but in all honesty, despite the fact of how many problems I have with this company and the style they're going down, I am more than willing to help. That might sound weird. Why would they even ask you to help? Good question. They shouldn't ask me to help. That's why. But I am more than willing to give them any sort of feedback that they want. I'm more than willing to help. Honestly, my message to you, Square Enix, is if you want me, contact me. I'm as simple as that. I'm willing to talk to you. I'm willing to discuss things with you. I'm willing to help you. I'm even willing to give you my game to go and make. That is how much I'm willing to help. Purely because I'd like my story with better graphics and not to have to spend the hundreds of hours that I'm spending at the minute just developing the game bit by bit, block by block. But and I already gave you the chance anyway. I sent you an email, so yeah, leave it out. Anyway, guys, for those of you who've watched the video, I'm sorry I had to make this video. Lying in bed and just getting all frustrated with that. So, right, I do feel better now, and I could probably sleep. But thank you very much for watching, and if you are watching Square Enix, message me now, fools. Okay, goodbye.